Hello and welcome back to the Moonboy Podcast, episode 12. Today we're going to be discussing market sentiment and really just going over the crypto markets mainly. We've been talking a lot about the world economy, and although we'll probably touch on that because it's associated with crypto, we're really going to dive deep into the crypto markets today. So make sure that you guys hit that like button on both my channel and Donovan's, as well as subscribing because we have the links for both of our channels in the description of both of these videos. And also comment down below where you're tuning in from in this beautiful world, because we would love to hear where you're tuning in from to the podcast. So without further ado, let's get straight into the podcast. So I've been thinking a lot about the sentiment lately. I pretty much noticed that when the price went from, well, when we were at like 8,000 and 7,000, everybody was basically saying, let's buy, let's buy, let's buy, let's buy. And then now that we dipped to 6,800 in the past couple days, I mean, even just that little dip, like that's a really small time frame move that we're talking about right here. I'm looking at the 4 hour when I'm talking about this, but that little dip changed everything on Twitter. Oh, yeah. Like literally hundreds of bearish charts started coming out.
And It's really crazy right now what we're seeing, because like it's just been, we've talked about the sentiment shift for a while, and it's like now we're starting to see it. People started getting a little bit of confidence as Bitcoin rebounded and started heading back up to, support of the new year at about 6,400, and now we started selling off again, and then once again you're hearing all of these lower lows and then calls back to 3K.
Yeah.
And it's just,
or 1.2 or deeper.
Exactly. And so one thing that we've both noticed is just scrolling through TradingView, just seeing all of the charts pointing to the Great Depression. There's like a majority of people
like
posting
70% roughly.
It's crazy because we talked about this not too long ago, just the fact that at the new year when Bitcoin was at $6,400, we impulsed to 10.5, right around that area. Everybody was bullish on that retrace. When we were coming back down to those lows that we set at the new year, everybody was, full-blown buying, like I'm averaging into this dip. And then, that one day everything kind of crashed, sold through support. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, all of those people that at the new year were saying, oh my gosh, I would just love to buy Bitcoin at, $4,000. I'd love for one more lower low. The lower low happens, and then all of a sudden, oh no, it's going lower, aim for new lows, buying at 1K. And, it's just, all of a sudden, those people that were bullish, that were looking to buy the dip, are now bearish, aiming to buy lower.
They're like, I will sell now and I'll buy back lower when everything's cheaper, and I'll make so much more money than these idiots that are buying now when everybody else is in the extreme fear on the fear and greed index.
There's 16 million unemployed people right now. The world is completely ending. It's just the same narrative.
Which is a completely hyperinflated number because of this whole pandemic narrative that probably won't last forever.
Right, exactly.
So one of the things, sentiment, for anybody that doesn't know, it basically just means the emotional psychology of the market at that time. When Bitcoin was at 20,000 per coin, I literally didn't know one person on TradingView that wasn't saying 100K, including myself. And so that right there is just an example of market sentiment.
Yeah. Sentiment's just a good way of knowing if the sentiment's bearish or bullish. And so sentiment's just, like you said, the emotional
If everyone's bullish, then it's probably not a good time to be buying. And if everyone is bearish, it could possibly be a good time to buy. Not to base everything purely on that contrarian perspective, because sometimes people could think like that and then kind of go crazy and look at every single little post or every single little thing. It doesn't work like that, But overall, you can get a feel for the emotion of the market based on the language people use. Like I mentioned to people that I showed a chart that showed that Bitcoin could still keep going up, even though we dropped to 6,800 the past couple days.
Right.
And people are saying that I'm posting a hopium fractal, which means they're calling me somebody that's just inhaling hopium like a drug or something, hoping that there's going to be something bullish coming out of this. And that language alone is an insight into market sentiment, because most people are like, oh, this isn't going to happen. He literally said, this probably isn't going to happen. I'm waiting to buy back lower, but here's a good hopium fractal by Dallin. And so that is an example of market sentiment. And he didn't mean anything bad by that, and I'm sure he makes good trading decisions sometimes, but everybody has like that side of them where they don't even realize the language that they're using, because they're so engulfed in the emotion of what they're feeling that they're just speaking what they feel like they should,
That's an interesting point, because I've seen it the same thing with my YouTube videos, because it's really been the last 5 months that my channel's taken off, and then through that time, it was all just good, positive feedback. Every video, just perfect like to dislike ratios. And while everything is still doing really well, I've noticed that recently with like yesterday, my XRP video, every time I ever uploaded an XRP video, it was always just
amazing.
The most bullish comments. Everybody was excited. This most recent video that I made, there were so many comments that were bearish, so many comments
negative sentiment.
that were saying that I was fulfilled, like just pumping hopium.
Yeah.
And then there's people saying, "Oh, this
trying
XRP
to spread
says
false
this."
hope.
Yeah, there's people that were saying, "Oh, that's what they say every single time." And you know, guys, when it comes to my strategy, this is a long-term investment, and so we're averaging into those dips. And so, you know, the lower that we go to the terminal end of this correction, wherever that's going to be, maybe we've already hit the low at 10 cents. I don't know. But with all that being said, you know, it's just insane to me that, you know, all these people that were holding their investment from XRP the entire way down, that were continuing to invest, continuing to just average in, literally at that new year when we were at $6,400, I remember seeing comments saying, when I made videos talking about downside potential for XRP to go to like 6 cents or 12 cents, right? I made that video, and there were so many comments that were saying, "Oh, well, if it goes lower, I'm just going to buy that. That's such a good deal right there."
And then once it hits the price,
they didn't buy.
Yeah.
And they're thinking that it's going to go to 3 cents or something, and it's just like, it happens every single time. And you know, now that the sentiment shift, it makes us way more bullish than ever before because we see that.
And we bring these things up to educate and give you insight in our perspectives of the things we're seeing based on our experience, because I know what it's like to feel like that. I know what it's like to comment on somebody else's video and say an emotional comment, because I've been in your shoes and I've had prices drop and then become bearish at the bottom of a market when I should have been bullish, because I've been doing this for 5 freaking years. And so when you watch these markets for that long, you start to get a feel for the sentiment. What's interesting to me, everybody was using the Bitcoin halving as a bullish thing. Everybody was like, the Bitcoin halving is going to be bullish, and they have this narrative around the Bitcoin halving being bullish. Now all of a sudden, that Bitcoin dropped a little bit before the halving, which by the way provides an amazing dip before the halving to buy. Everybody's treating the halving like a bearish narrative. Yeah. They're saying that, oh, the halving is actually bearish.
Yeah, bearish. Buy the rumor, sell the news.
It's going to all be sold on the day of the halving. And maybe it does, but we still have 30 days leading up to that. 33 days, I believe, 31, somewhere around there. In May. It's going to be somewhere around the 1st of May that we get the halving. Yeah. So next month, we're having in Bitcoin Miner Reward. If this isn't minor capitulation, if this isn't bearish sentiment, if this isn't max capitulation, I don't know what to think, because it's so obvious to me right now that that's what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked a lot about on my videos how institutions have been investing in crypto, and one of the points that we've been talking about is the fact that everybody's bearish argument right now is the fact that retail doesn't have enough money to survive. They need to buy groceries, they have to sell their investments, and while yeah, that's true, retail is definitely going to have to do that, and they are doing
talking about their own problems.
Exactly.
Literally.
What they fail to realize is the fact that, you know, the biggest majority, the 90% of the biggest so the 1% of biggest Bitcoin holders own 87% of the supply, about 85 to 90%, right around there. That's the most common number that I see. And it's insane because those are the people that have 1,000 plus Bitcoin that they're holding in a wallet. Those type of people aren't cashing out
They're getting
early.
more and more and more and more.
And I actually just saw, so Glassnode, same dude that brought up this analytic that I'm talking about right now, Glassnode brought up another, he brought up another really cool chart here yesterday that was an analytic that basically showed the same thing, how many new 1,000 plus Bitcoin addresses have been growing, and he updated it because at the time he only had that going from 3,200 to 14K, and the whole time that number of 1,000 plus Bitcoin addresses, people holding 1,000 plus Bitcoin, was growing, and it was going parabolic to highs that we haven't seen since 2015.
In this crash that we saw.
The crash and the rise. So the institutions were buying. And now, with the dip from 14K to 3,800 that we recently saw, that number kept increasing. So what that says is that the people with billions of dollars to invest and buy lots of Bitcoin have been buying, and they haven't stopped. And you know, this entire crash from 6K to 3,200 and then from 14K to 38, that was where they were buying. And you know, they've just accumulated everybody else's fear, all the retail that, you know, either were over leveraged, panic sold, or didn't have enough money to pay for their needs that they needed to meet. Those are the people that are hurting. And right now, the reason why you're seeing all of this talk on Twitter, on YouTube, is because you're probably listening to a lot of retail investors that just don't know.
A lot of dumb money.
Exactly.
That are making dumb mistakes. Exactly. Yeah, and here's the thing. You know, at 20K Bitcoin, I was talking about how we were a new paradigm. Everybody had bullish sentiment. As soon as we started to get bearish sell signals, I posted a chart to go to 6K. I posted a chart to go to 3K.
Right.
And we planned for bearish options. So even though we were in a delusional state as far as the amount of money we had made and the way we were feeling inside of us, we were still planning for our own delusions.
Right.
And that is what you're really trying to do, is get out of your own way in trading. You plan for your own emotion. You know, because when you're in that moment, you won't be able to know.
Yeah.
But basically, when prices started going down, I told people from the very beginning that from 20K down to 6 or 20K down to 3 is the first sell-off of a massive parabolic market cycle. And what's coming is a huge parabolic run where the real general populace and real mass adoption really takes place. And institutions are not retarded. They're not going to buy 20K Bitcoin.
No.
They're going to leverage it all the way down to 3. They're going to bleed the alts down 99%. They're going to shake every single retail investor out to where they're complaining on Twitter. And then all the other retail investors will sell because they see all the other retail investors selling. And crowd psychology is one of the most powerful marketing triggers in the entire planet. And then all of a sudden, everybody's out of the markets except for institutions, and they bought the dip like crazy after an 80% retrace, and they get rich.
Exactly. It's ridiculous because, you know, the thing I keep talking to everybody and the thing I keep trying to bring everybody up to help shed awareness on this subject is the fact that there was not any institutional exchanges, partnerships, anything until the very top of 20K. That was when the first institution, CME Futures, launched, and coincidentally...
And then back after that is coming...
coincidentally, that was the day that Bitcoin started crashing. So basically what happened, CME opened, it gave paper trading to Bitcoin, allowed institutions that have billions and billions of dollars to start shorting the market when... Previously, you couldn't hardly even short the market of Bitcoin. You could longer short, but that was such a small amount of like money that it didn't mean anything. And so that's why Bitcoin only went up. The second that we launched futures for Bitcoin was the exact day that Bitcoin started crashing, meaning all these institutions shorted the exact top of Bitcoin while the Bitcoin price started going down. All of the retail investors panicked.
Sucked all of the money out of them.
And so as the institutions are shorting the market, retail investors are selling their positions, and those sells are going to be profits for the shorts on the whole way down. And so they shorted the entire market. At the exact bottom of $3,200 was when the CME contract expired for that year. And that was the exact bottom
of the whole
and
market.
Then everything shot up again. And now everybody's wondering, you know, oh, it's going to just crash magically. We haven't even had an institutional run yet. This is going to be the first one. If you look at the psychology of a market cycle, you can see that based off of the valuation of a cycle, the first sell-off is when the institutions get involved. Exactly to your point, and that's what we just had. 20K was the first time we ever had institutions in Bitcoin, and so now they've accumulated everybody else's fear. They made the first higher high on this macro trend for, you know, new all-time highs, and now it's just a matter of, you know, accumulating, getting that trend going, and then after the halving is when retail FOMOs in and pumps their bags.
What really pumps it is when they realize that they have all the retail money now. They're like, oh, we've taken every single dollar. Like, so what you really have to ask yourself, you guys, what can happen when you hear stuff like this? It's kind of like if you start hearing about like corruption in the government or something like that. A lot of people get this defeated mentality where they hear that there's corruption in the government, and so they just feel defeated. So they're like, you know what, F the system. I'm not even going to like associate with it. I'm not going to screw the government. But that just creates more problems. If you created a narrative of, okay, this is the way the game works. How can I get inside of a position of influence that I can actually make a change on these things? And so what happens when you're thinking about the markets and, oh, institutional money shorted the top and stole all of the retail money down to 3.2K, don't become bitter, don't become a victim. empower yourself, because now you have the knowledge of the truth, build influence for yourself, and then maybe in the future you can help it so there isn't as much corruption inside of financial markets. But if you just automatically just go, oh, this is stupid, F the government, F institutions, F Bitcoin, you're missing out on the whole opportunity of what's really going on. So be open-minded to the truth, even if it isn't exactly what you wanted to hear. Yes, institutional money will take from retail money, and they will take a ton of retail money and shake everybody out to the point where they can't even pay their bills. And yes, that for you is a bad thing, but it's your responsibility to take responsibility for that knowledge and for what's actually going on.
Exactly. And that's one of the quote pops into my head: if you can't beat them, join them. And that's the same thing. You're not going to be able to beat these institutional investors that have billions and billions of dollars, trillions
think
combined.
like them, but think in a more positive way, because the corruption and the manipulation does exist. So don't add to the problem, but think in the sense of, how can I ride with the institutions?
Yeah, because that's the most important aspect, because you're not going to be able to overthrow the system. The only way you can overthrow the system is maybe investing into Bitcoin, a hedge against that, if that's what you believe. And so there's only a couple things that you can do. At the end of the day, you got to focus on yourself, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. It's not what this institution's doing. You just got to be able to plan accordingly, figure out a plan and a strategy that works for you, profit off of that strategy, and build your own wealth. And with that wealth, you can then go about changing the system, however the heck that means to you. And so that's the biggest issues with retail money. Retail money is very emotional, and the fact about emotions is they're easily manipulated.
They're very victim mentality, very emotional, very screw these guys. It's the manipulators. It's those dang Wall Street people. Like, they always screw everybody over. Oh, the rich always get richer no matter what, and the poor always get poorer, and I'm poor. Right? That mentality is retarded. Like, if you don't want to be poor the rest of your life, start thinking how the rich think.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's why it's super important right now that, before the bull run has fully started, you're educating yourself, you're figuring out those strategies that profit, you're learning from those people and studying what they are doing, how they are doing it, because that's the only way that you're ever going to guarantee your profitability. And at the end of the day, everybody watching this channel is here to make money. That's literally it. If you try and tell me that you're here for anything else, I'm not going to believe you. I'm going to think you're full of shit, because it's just not true. Everybody here that watches this watches my channel or watches your channel because they want to learn how to make money.
Channel.
Exactly. They just want to make money. And so, you're not going to make money by projecting these belief systems that, oh, the government's evil, oh, these institutions are evil and they're greedy and they're stealing from everybody. While all of that may be true, you got to understand that...
What good does it do to think like that?
Exactly.
It doesn't help your situation in any way
It's
whatsoever.
not going to help anything. And that's why poor people, being around money, being around crypto, learning investing, we've obviously educated ourselves a significant margin on how...
around a lot of wealthy-minded people.
Exactly. And the things that I continuously notice is the fact that these poor people, my friends, that don't have any money, that are constantly struggling, they always have these same belief systems. Oh, money is evil, money can't buy happiness, money can't do any of these things. Or they just completely don't understand money at all. And so because of that, they don't know how to earn it. Because of that, they become a slave into the system, and then they become just like every other
But at the same
investor.
time, subconsciously and through their body language and through their actions, they're worshiping money.
Exactly.
And when you idolize money, that's... A lot of people that idolize money think that they hate it. That's the thing that's interesting about it. And so, but you're all here to make money. That's very true. The difference that sets somebody apart that it has a good intention is their why that they're making their money. And we've talked about this in the new ebook that's coming out soon, so stay tuned on our channels for that. We've been working on this ebook and we're really excited about it, and one of the things it talks about is setting your why, setting your attention. It's not bad to make money, just have a good reason to make that money. Whether you want to provide a good future for your family, whether you want to educate your children in a way that will make it so that the world is a better place, so that there isn't so much confusion and fog and to add positive influences, to drip some some positivity into this world through your avenue of self-creation. That is a good why. That's a really good why, you know? So that also helps it, so that all of a sudden you're not looking at money as the negative thing. It's what you do with it and why you get it that makes it good or bad.
And that's a really good point, because
It's a tool.
one of the things that I've learned is just, you know, the points I've had the most amount of money, I think back to like 2018, top of the Bitcoin cycle. Most money I ever had in my entire life. Didn't really have any money previously to that point. But then, you know, I got that money, and it never changed my happiness.
Yeah.
I was actually pretty depressed. I was like pretty insecure about myself. I was not feeling like very good. But now, going through the bear market, losing money, and then making it back up, and just having all of this choppy volatility, I've learned that the most important thing that you guys are going to be able to do is make sure that you know exactly why you're using your money, where you're going to be using it, and then, you know, creating that plan. Because not only do you create a trading plan for making money, you need to create a trading plan for how you're going to use that. Because it's so important.
Reinvest it.
We often think that money is going to be the solution for everything. I've definitely been in that situation where I thought that money would solve all of my problems. It only amplifies your issues, and it amplifies the good as well. And so that's why it's very important that before you ever get the money, you should be grounded within yourself. You should know exactly what direction you're headed, because if you're just lost and you're depressed and you're feeling all
and you have $1 million,
yeah, good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
it's just not the strategy to go about for being a profitable trader. I mean, and protecting your longevity, because that's the biggest thing. How are you going to protect your wealth? Because anybody can make wealth, but it takes a special person to actually maintain that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's really important that while in these times, before anybody has made a significant portion, before the emotions get super high, now is the time where you want to have your plan, not just a trading plan, but having a plan for what you're going to do with that money. Because at the end of the day, you know, money is just a tool to obtain all of the things that you want. It's a good way to obtain physical things that you want. But you guys got to understand that there's nothing physical that is ever going to make you happy. That is all done within yourself.
Yeah. No, and I really love that you said that. One of the things that happened to me at the top of the market, you know, I look in my bank account, I'm like, oh wow, there's $250,000 in my bank account. I look in my Bitcoin wallet, there's like the same amount, and I'm just like, wow, this is so crazy. And then there's like that exhilarating feeling. It is exhilarating to make money, and that feeling does feel good. We're not trying to make it sound like making money doesn't feel good. There is a rush to that.
One of the best feelings.
It is a really good feeling to make that money. But then all of a sudden I was like, crap, I don't know how to pay my taxes, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do that. It was like, wow, this amplified the confusion that was already in myself. You know, I didn't fully understand how to run my business. All of these little insecurities and stuff were all of a sudden insecurities plus all this money, and it didn't make it seem better, it made it seem like a bigger issue. And so what you said about planning before is super, super important, because it will help you maintain that wealth. And then when you get there, it won't feel like a bigger issue, because you'll already, if you're meditating, if you're doing the things that generate happiness within yourself, then you'll already feel like you have security within yourself, and that money will be added value. And some of the times that I felt the richest, I had under $10,000 in my bank account. It wasn't the dollar amount in my bank account that was making me wealthy, but it was my mindset. It was the way that I felt about myself. It was the decisions I was making. It was how I was treating people around me. It was the relationships I was developing. And that was where the real wealth was created.
Exactly.
And so what you said is completely true, and I have personal first-hand experience with it. And I felt personally that I needed to share that with you guys today, because who knows, maybe you're a business owner, maybe that you're new to business, and maybe you've felt those insecurities before. Maybe you've made money, or maybe you haven't yet, but you have those insecurities. Focus on those first, you know, and money will be a natural side effect, because you're generating so much wealth in the world that you'll receive it.
I actually made a tweet the other day that was very similar to that. If you're unhappy, if you focus on the physical, you're going to be less happy, and you're going to get less of what you're trying to manifest in the physical. However, if you focus on creating happiness, you obtain the physical and you maintain happiness as well. And so it's literally just your state of being. That's 100% everything in life. And so if you're a really low vibrational person, really negative, pessimistic towards everything, how are you ever supposed to do anything productive? If you're sitting there, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, I'm just this poor loser and all these things. Well, yeah, you are a poor loser, and that's exactly what you're going to turn out to be, because your thoughts create your reality. And so it's super important that as you sitting here, you are maintaining that positive thought. You're constantly aligning with your thoughts with what it is that you're trying to manifest, and you're constantly sticking to that route, because at the end of the day, you know, it's so easy to get caught up in the emotional trauma with life in general, the pandemic. Who knows? Maybe you guys have family that have been infected that are dying. Maybe you have family that are struggling in a different country. There's so many different things, and that's why it's so important that you allow happiness to flow within yourself, because at the end of the day, if you're not happy and if you're really stressed about a number of different things, you're only going to continue to get more stressed about even more things. And so it's just very important that you just ground that down.
Yeah, I agree. People will be less and less attracted to you too. You know, and I'm not even just saying like physical attraction in the sense of attraction with here is me having sex with this person afterwards. I'm talking about attraction whether like somebody wants to be in your presence or not. Like boy, girl, doesn't matter, cat, dog, like presence, your ability to maintain presence and create a positive environment for people to feel comfortable and express themselves and talk and all of those things, and you become less and less attractive to other people when you're the person that is bringing them down. So if you're the person that's always bringing everybody else up because you feel so good within yourself, guess what? If somebody else is having their family lost in a pandemic and you walk by them smiling and compliment them on their dress, or you walk by them and talk with them for a few minutes and listen to their story and show some sympathy and empathy towards them. Empathy is better. So empathy towards them. Then all of a sudden, that person walks away feeling lighter, and they give that to other people as well, and that gets transferred. And so that's why Dr. Hawkins is a person that invented the Hawkins scale, and we've talked about this before on the podcast. It's basically a scale of human emotions. You have like positive ones like peace, joy, enlightenment, intellectual thinking, and all of those things at the top. And then you've got like shame and fear and greed and guilt. Some of these aren't the same ones that are on the list, but you get the general idea. Low emotions versus high emotions. The person that's on the higher end of the spectrum is like 100 to 1,000 times more influential and powerful for the other people in their life and provide more value than the people that are on the lower end of the spectrum, because the people on the lower end of the spectrum, it's so like, it doesn't stick, whereas like the higher end of the spectrum stuff really, really stays with people. It's so much more powerful in nature.
Right.
And what's really, really interesting to me is that people, when they're depressed or sad and stuff like that, they feel like they're in a state of timelessness. They enter the state of infinite, never-ending death and despair and depression that feels like it will never end. Well, guess what? If you're on the higher end of the spectrum, you enter a state of timelessness. So both sides of the spectrum are a state of timelessness, but the higher end of the spectrum is, I am feeling joy and peace, and I have patience to sit and work on my ebook for 3 hours, or I have patience to talk to people in my Discord group, or post charts, or talk with people on my Twitter, or do a giveaway, or all of these little things. I just feel like I'm timeless in the state of inner peace, and that is so, so powerful. And you also feel, in a way, like almost immortal, because when you die, you felt like your life itself is such a fulfilling experience that no matter what happens, you have faith in life itself and faith in what some might call God or the universe, you know? Like, you're trusting.
Right.
You're trusting. You're in a state of inner trust and inner knowing.
And when you have that sort of state, the same thing can be applied towards business and making money. When you elevate yourself at these sorts of a state, you elevate your consciousness, you're focusing on the positive in your life, you're focusing on opportunities that are going to come to you. When you focus on those things, it only expands that initial thought, and you're going to find more opportunities, you're going to find more reasons to be thankful. And when you create that sort of state of being within yourself, money just flows in, because money is an energy of itself. And so, when you set yourself up for success, when you create the energy that you're wanting to attract into your life, it just flows to you. And it's just, if you're sitting there worrying about money, you're sitting there thinking about how you're going to make money every day, you're worrying about it, you're tripping about not having enough, you're only going to get more of not having enough. And you're not going to create that sort of energy portal in your life for money to flow in. Because if you're sitting there and you're very pessimistic about how you're going to make money, you are really negative towards yourself, you have a lot of negative self-talk, and then you start making YouTube videos and you release a course, you're automatically going to be less ambitious with your product because you already assume that it's going to fail. You're going to put less effort into that entire thing. On top of that, people are going to notice, and it's just this cycle where if you really want the most out of life, you want to attract the most money, you want to get the nicest house, the nicest things, you have to do the things required to actually do that. You got to study the people that are out there that are making those decisions, that are getting those things, and you have to listen to what mindset they have. And every single one of these billionaires, they don't give a damn about money. It's not even something they worry about, and that's why they have so much of it.
Yeah.
And so these people are accumulating assets. These people are focusing on, how can I create a happy state of being within myself? How can I go out and inspire other people in the world to
value?
Exactly, because it's just going to spread and it's going to be a chain reaction. You can go and say, hey, you're an idiot and you're never going to be anything in life. That person is never going to gain anything from that, compared to you walk up to that person and you say, hey, you're doing excellent with your business. You are just thriving in everything that you do. Keep doing that, because I promise that you are going to be filthy rich.
Yeah.
That person immediately lights up. They feel so energized.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe 10 years down the line, their business takes off. You might be in a rut, or you're doing just as good. And then that person reaches out, and then there's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's just the way life works. And so you've got to really cultivate the environment in which you want in your life, because you will create that. It's just a matter of right now analyzing yourself. If you right now don't have the things that you want, and you know that there are certain things that you're wanting to manifest into your life, more money, more wealth, whatever it might be,
more Bitcoin. More Bitcoin, baby.
There's something in your life that you need to pay attention towards. You're either worrying too much about something, you're giving yourself negative self-talk, things like that, because the second that you open yourself up, the second that you raise that vibration, you're happy, you're feeling love every day, it's amazing how people just pop up into your life, people you never would have imagined. Somebody messages you or emails you with this amazing opportunity to make a bunch of money.
Cute girl messages you.
Exactly.
She's
it's all
like,
the same
hey.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly. It's all the same.
It's a good feeling, too.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, this is really paying off. And then it just makes you want to do it more. The way I like to use is an analogy. Your personal emotions are like water. Getting all Bruce Lee on you guys, but really your emotional field is like water. So if every single day you're being sad, if every single day you're doing things that are in alignment with sadness, with despair, with depression, the path of least resistance is more despair, more sadness, deeper depression, less of what you want in your life, and less and less and less and less and less and less, because that's the direction the water is flowing. So of course, to change the direction of the water flow takes a big change. It takes inner change. It's not just instant or simple or the easiest thing, but it is relatively straightforward. You just have to shift the direction.
Almost everybody knows exactly what they should be doing.
Yeah, eating healthy, exercising, meditating, spending time with people you care about, building positive relationships, being honest, open, communicating. All of these things, it's pretty straightforward, the formula. It's just that you make massive change, and then that water will start flowing towards the other end of the spectrum, towards joy, towards peace, and then all of a sudden, that's the path of least resistance. It's easier to wake up in the morning early, feeling happy, feeling motivated, feeling excited, feeling all of these things, because that's the path of least resistance for you.
How do you build a house? Brick by brick. One of the things that I want to brush up on was just how, like you said, emotional state is like water. There's actually a Japanese study back, I believe it was in the 70s or 80s, that basically Japanese guy took water took water droplets, and then he photographed them as he froze them. he had music playing, or not music, but he had recordings playing that would say negative things, I hate you, you're ugly, things like that. And then he would have another water droplet that would be saying, I love you, you're beautiful, things like along that line. And what he found was that the water droplets that froze under negative self-talk, they didn't create any sort of beautiful crystal. They were ugly looking. They were disproportionate.
Proportionate.
Yeah, disproportionate. That's the word. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the ones that were positive self-talk, they created these beautiful looking snowflakes and stuff. And so that just goes to show that, you know,
I believe
human beings are 70% water. All the things that you say carry a vibration. And so if you freeze water droplets while you give it a negative vibration and you can visibly see that it looks just distorted, the exact same thing is happening to you on a molecular level. And that's why meditation is important, why we practice it, is because you can literally reprogram that subconscious mind. If you're in a really low state, you can start meditating and you can start choosing how you want to feel. And it's literally that easy. It's almost like you're plugging into a computer and
programming
then you're just saying,
your life.
Exactly.
Like, this is what I want. This is
It's
what I want.
all the exact same, and people just don't think. They don't think about
They're not
this stuff.
consciously putting inputs into their own system. They're unconsciously putting inputs.
And it's really not that hard to do. I mean, it's just piece by piece, bit by bit. You know, if you're somebody that notices that you have a bad habit with putting people down, you know, all it takes is you noticing that. As long as you notice that you do that, that's the first step to changing it. And you know, you change that. Even though you still might put somebody down, in the moment, after you do it, you'll start to realize you're like, I shouldn't have done that. And then eventually, you stop doing it entirely. And then eventually, you know, you're over that habit, and then you can say, okay, here's another thing that I want to change. Okay? Then you'd attack it the exact same way again.
And I feel like that's a really cool thing about these teachings, you know, like meditation and stuff like that, is it can take anybody. I don't care who it is, how despaired they are, how much trauma. It can take anybody, and it can get them to stop those habits.
Yeah.
Which people believe, oh, people can't change, or oh, at a certain age that's how they are forever. That's because their subconscious is programmed that way. That is an operating system that's playing these things over and over and over. Well, you can reprogram your operating system.
Yeah.
You can change. Anybody can change. So then all of a sudden, it's not about who do I want in my life, who do I don't want in my life. It's about how can I influence people in a way that they're feeling the same way I'm feeling. And then if they're in my life, cool. If they're not in my life, cool. It doesn't matter. The path they take is their path. My path I take is my path. And, you know, just to address the concerns of maybe people that are more skeptical when you hear about water and people talking to water and it freezing in different ways, let's pretend that maybe that isn't true. I fully believe that could be a real study. I've heard about it before.
Oh, it's definitely true.
I'm not in any way discrediting it, but let's play with the idea of that not being the case. It doesn't matter because the meditation, the positive affirmations, the things that we practice still work. It still works. So it doesn't matter if we're magically changing our water crystals in our body. Like, that's how we feel. And so it's more, even if you just looked at it as a metaphor, you know, it's a powerful understanding to understand.
Yeah, 100%. And if more people just adopted that was actually, I learned that fresh out of high school. I remember watching a documentary on YouTube, because most people that follow me don't understand is, you know, when I was like 14, really bad depression, escalated as, you know, I hit puberty and started getting through my teen years, and then it got to the point where I was spending time in therapy programs, psych wards, had a therapist, like, just going through all of these issues. And you know, there's been not one single thing out of all of the therapy, out of all of the hours of me, you know, doing all this crap that society says I should, there was not anything that helped me more than just me realizing I have issues, me taking initiative for those actions, and then me changing those through meditation,
conscious
through doing something
choice.
else. Exactly, because that's the thing. I truly believe that when you are done and you're fed up with yourself, you hit rock bottom eventually. Eventually, you realize you're only going one direction, and that's the direction you don't want to go. Eventually, you get sick of it, and then that's like the awakening moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I am me, I have to go do something, I don't care what it takes. The second that you make that decision within yourself, God, the universe, whatever the crap you want to believe, I do believe that just things just attract into your life, and you become a magnet for these things to come. And so for me, for an example, I was in and out of juvenile detention, in and out of therapy. I get out of that. I remember just being so sick of all of this problem that I was in. I just dug myself this deep hole and I just wanted to be out. I just wanted to be free. And so I started working on that. You know, I made the initiative that I wanted to be something, and I had these high goals, and I knew that I had to get them. It was literally a month later that I met you, you showed me Bitcoin, and then boom, there was my opportunity, and I saw it because I had been preparing myself for it. The same thing for everybody else that out there watching. It's not this supernatural thing. Making money really isn't that hard. It's just you aligning your constant thought with the thing that you're trying to create.
Yeah.
And you know, the more that you do that, the easier it gets, and then the better that you get at doing it, the more that you're able to create, and then, you know, it's just an ever-changing cycle that just consistently just gets bigger and expands.
And I think that's why I have so much respect for you as a person, is because you were in that situation, but you were willing to be honest with yourself, and then you were willing to take an opportunity, and you were willing to take the action and actually make the conscious decisions and choices that change you, and that's what separates the person that gets to where they're wanting to go and the person that doesn't, is that you are willing.
Right.
You know, it's an inner willingness, and you can't have that with...
Exactly.
You can't have that while you're still in a state of defeat.
No.
Like, when you get fully defeated is when you find inner willingness.
And that's the thing, like, I look back to my friends that I used to hang out with back at those times where I was really low. Pregnant, jail, drugs,
Yep.
nothingness. Like, they're all almost in the exact same situation. I was one of the only people. I literally don't
crawled
know
out
another-
of the pit.
Yeah, and I was actually able to make something, and I'm so grateful that I was, but, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are going to be struggling. A lot of people that watch this channel have less than $500 invested in a crypto, but they know that they're on the right path, and they know that eventually it'll work out. Because, guys, when I got into crypto, you know, I bought a Bitcoin, and yeah, that was worth $450 at the time, but I also tried to learn how to trade. I lost a bunch of money, and it was just this constant cycle of, like, win, lose, oh, I'm just stuck in the same place, and it can be so stressful. But at the end of the day, you know, this is a long-term game, and you know, the more that you just focus on this, the more that you just dedicate your time to this, it will pay off significantly. It took me a couple of years before I figured out and got enough, you know, stability to where I could be
Confidence.
profitable. Exactly. And you know, people watching this, some people are starting at different areas. Some people have $100,000. Some people have less than $100. You know,
We do
it
have
just
some
depends.
really rich followers out there.
We
which-
do.
Shout out to everybody, you know, whatever state of wealth that you're in right now. These things, it doesn't matter, you know, if some of the people that are watching this are the rich person that thought that money was going to solve all their problems, now they have all the money and they feel like everything expanded and grew. If you are that person, you know, just consider, I invite you to practice meditation 20 minutes a day. Because I feel like that right there is the hands down biggest thing that changes you. In fact, even within myself, if I'm not doing that, you just start falling back into the same mental things that
It's actually
you start
insane.
getting in your own way again very quickly.
It's insane how I can speak from my own personal experience. This last year, about the last year and a half, since about Vegas. Vegas was basically when I started meditating. So like about a year and a half, I
What good
started
times.
meditating. Yeah, I started meditating frequently, started implementing that habit. You know, there was days where I'd miss a couple days in a row, and then sometimes it'd be weeks in a row. But like, I constantly made that as something that I was working to improve and implement in my life. And you know, it got to the point where, you know, I moved to Colorado, and I was meditating every single day. And, you know, I was feeling good, even though the situation I was in wasn't very good. I personally was doing all of the things necessary to, you know, keep myself grounded. And, you know, about 3 weeks ago, I started meditating again every day. I'd fallen out of the habit because I just had a lot of changing stuff in my personal life. But, you know, about 3 weeks ago, I started meditating every single day, 20 minutes a day. That's all. Just 20 minutes. And I cannot explain how mind-blowing it actually was. Within the first 3 days, I was waking up earlier in the morning. I had energy for the first time. I cannot tell you how long I've spent just waking up in the morning, not even wanting to get up because I'm just not motivated. And I could not figure out why. Thought it was because I was eating something, or thought that I was thinking about something that I shouldn't have, or something.
Yeah.
And then I just figured, out, 3 days meditating, I was waking up 2 hours earlier in the morning. I felt great. I felt way more motivated to make
Slept
YouTube
good.
videos. Yeah, exactly. I felt refreshed for the first time in what felt like months and even years.
Yeah.
And, it's not that hard. 20 minutes a day is the easiest thing. We mess around on our phones for hours every single day. And, if you just started cutting out those times in which you're just wasting, and then you start implementing positive habits, like, I'm never going to be somebody that tells everybody that you have to meditate. It's the only way, because that's not the case.
We'll invite you.
Yeah, of course. Like, I invite everybody to meditate because I know how much it's changed my personal life. And it doesn't matter what your religious belief system is. It's not like you're worshiping some god by meditating.
Yeah.
It's literally you connecting with yourself. And, when I meditate, after I meditate, I pray because I like to have that sort of connection. I ground back in with myself. I allow that separation of me and my thought to where my thoughts aren't just going crazy anymore. And then I pray and give thanks. And that's what, for me personally, it's different from everybody because everybody practices their own beliefs. For me personally, that's the most perfect way that I can just take some time to connect back with myself, connect back with your higher powers, whatever those are. And every single day that I do that, I feel more motivated, I have more patience for things, I'm much more understanding and empathetic towards others, and it makes me just much more excited about life in general.
I mean, even just our relationship. We've been working on Bitcoin together for so long. And just to see the improvement and the patience that we have with each other and the willingness to communicate what we're actually feeling, even if like before we wouldn't have because we'd be worried what the other person would say or think or do or act because of it. We're like speaking our truth to each other. We're being way more patient with each other. We were always pretty patient with it, but more than even before.
No argument, no nothing.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's so cool to see that. And it's not even... It's branching out into all of my relationships. It's like my relationship with you, my best friend. When I develop that, it's like my relationship with every person in my life is better too because those same skills apply to all relationships. It's not just like one person in your life.
Exactly. And, meditation is going to be super good for the, not just simple relationships with your family or yourself, but like business relationships. Because like you guys got to understand that on a subconscious level, everybody has their own energy field. And whether you think it happens or not, just somebody entering the room, you're picking up on their energy field. And if they're lower energy, they're really negative, you're going to feel that and you're going to subconsciously pick up on that and you're going to subconsciously try and push them away if they aren't a match for your energy field. And so the same thing can be said for your business relationships. You're not going to go nail all of these partnerships. You're not going to make all this money with these partnerships if you are sitting there at this low state, you're insecure about yourself, because those type of people are going to pick you apart when it comes to business. Because they see the weakness, because those are the people that are in their power. They have that high vibration. They're that status. They have high status. And, it's when you're at that high status sort of feel, it's so easy to see into other people that are in those lower states.
Everything.
Easily. It's just like reading a book. And, that's why, for us, meditation, I think, hands down, has been one of the biggest things towards business and YouTube, is just because I'm now confident in myself. I can take that confidence and talk to people that normally I would be, scared or like intimidated to talk to. And I feel like I am the one providing value and I can assert myself in the conversation, whereas before I never could do that. And so it's been revolutionary towards just my overall business and how I go about handling conversations and all of that.
And predicting the markets. Like, we didn't even bring that up really yet. Predicting the markets. Talk about an ability to see what's going on in the markets in a way that you never would before. And what I was saying about earlier about speaking your truth, and what you said about unconscious, what's communicated unconsciously, anything that you don't speak, anything that you don't communicate is communicated subconsciously and unconsciously through body language, through you shutting off and looking away from somebody, or just doing your own little thing and just pushing them out. Like, you're communicating the same thing that you're trying to communicate. You're just doing it in a way where now all of a sudden they feel like they're separated from you, or like it creates contention or creates separation. So speak your truth, you guys. Communicate with each other, because that will allow you to really everybody will feel like you're more honest. Everybody will feel like you're more genuine. Everybody will feel like you're speaking your truth, because you're not holding everything in, you know?
Look at your friend group for an example. Do you like to be around the person, or do your friends like to be around the person that's constantly, as soon as you're gone, they're talking behind your back, or they're talking behind somebody else's back? Of course not. Nobody wants to be around that person, and the same thing can be said like that, If you're having a conversation and you're feeling shut off, you might not have any idea of what's going on. You might not even be consciously aware that you're doing that. But, on a subconscious level, everything is going to be said, and that person's going to pick up on that. And, on the subconscious level, it's so important because those are the things that are left unsaid. And, in business relationships, that can make or break a deal. And people don't realize that. Just how you present yourself, how you walk into a room, how you talk is so important with all of that stuff. And, these sorts of people, the more successful that you get, the more high status these people that you're going to meet are.
Yep.
And these are the type of people that know how to see through weakness. They can pick out weakness, and they can target that weakness. And that's why it's so important that you're building that strength. You go work out at the gym to improve your muscles. You're doing the same thing with your mind as well. You gotta work that mind
muscle.
out. Oh yeah, 100%. And so the more that you work on that, the more that you do these things, the more it's going to change who you are. And, the more success that's going to flow into your life because of that. And trading with us meditating and stuff, I felt a significant improvement because, I now have a deeper control over my emotional state, whereas before I didn't as much. And, before I was still doing really well in comparison to most people in the market, but that is actually one of the most important things that you can do as a investor in the market is learn how to get out of your own way. Make sure that you're not making these rational, emotional decisions in the moment, because crypto's so volatile. There is going to be emotions. Everybody feels them.
Super impulsive.
Exactly. Me and you feel those emotions all the time. But the second that for me, meditating, learning how to control those emotions on a deeper level, having thoughts come up and then having the emotions come up, but then knowing that you can push those away and think of something else. It's really going to help people investing in this market, especially new guys that aren't aware of how volatile crypto can be, people that have just recently entered within the new year and saw this crash. Now you guys have a taste for what it can be, and your decision making and how you handle the situation is going to improve exponentially if you have that control on your emotional state. Whether that's meditating or whether that's something else that you know how to do, that is going to really
sensory
change
deprivation,
everything.
Yoga.
Yeah.
There's so many avenues for developing your mental muscle.
Working out in
your
general.
Emotional mental muscle. Working out for sure, yeah. And so, and what you said about business relationships and status, there's this book that I was reading called Pitch Anything. And it's basically a book about how to get venture capitalists to buy your ideas, or how to get them to invest in you. They have 10 million and you're like, this is my idea. Well, most people, when they go into those situations, they go in and they're trying to instantly please these people. And the very first thing that they do when they go to do their presentation is to make them look like extremely low status and make the people they're presenting to look like really high status. And within a minute or 30 seconds, the people subconsciously know that they're higher status than the person giving the presentation that you're trying to pitch. And they will just completely shut you down. They'll reject you. But if you walk into the room and you're high status and you're like, this is my idea, this is how it's going to change everything. If you don't accept this money, I'm going to go find somebody else because I know my own value. The second you walk in with that kind of attitude and they feel like, oh, whoa, this person maybe even has more value in this area that I don't have that value, then they see you as higher status and they give you their money. They give it to you.
Exactly.
Not consciously, unconsciously. They think it's a conscious decision, but it's a body language thing.
Yeah.
And so these things really just apply to pretty much everything. And so that's why we're so passionate about sharing it. I feel like one of the things that I noticed when I was learning trading and investing, and we talk about this a little bit in the ebook, is so many people actually just teach purely technical stuff. Oh, well, have this stop loss, have this target, have this technical thing, that technical thing, but very few people even mention how much of all of this is an emotional game, how much of all of this is a game with yourself, a game with yourself, basically, an emotional game.
Yeah, I'd argue that that's the most important factor.
That's 90% of it.
Yeah,
if you get that down, you don't even have to have the technicals down that good, and you can properly do risk management, you can properly make money in the markets. There's a lot of people that don't know their technicals very good, but because they know risk management, they make money. And people that are good at risk management are good at emotional personal development.
Yeah, exactly. And, people have to realize that the more that they get invested with this market. I really wish that was one of the first things that I learned about the market, because that would have set me leaps and bounds above where I was previously. Then the emotional psychology, that's why I've always loved market cycles, big picture trends on my channels, because I've always felt like the emotional psychology of the market was the most important aspect to investing. And trading, risk management, things like that. Risk management's universal in investing in general. I would say that risk management and understanding the emotional psychology is the two things that you should learn. No Elliott waves, no trend lines, indicators. That stuff can come after. Exactly. Because, at the end of the day, you understand how the market thinks, you understand how they react in certain situations, you understand how you react in those situations, and you can analyze that in the rest of the market. Then the second that you start taking calculated positions, a little bit of risk here, a little bit of risk there, if you're wrong, cut your losses, move on to the next one. It only takes a couple winners before those compounding interest just grows and grows and grows, and then you're significantly better off than you ever were before. It didn't require any special knowledge or know-how. It just took a little bit of patience and understanding how the emotional psychology works inside of yourself.
It also helps with avoiding the home run mentality, where it's like, oh, this one investment is going to make me all of my money. You know what I mean? That's not the way that it works. It's lots of investments. It's multiple sells, buys. It's an accumulation process, a building up process, a development. It's a curve that grows. It's not just a curve that goes. I mean, if you look at an altcoin and you think about your life, you don't want to be the altcoin that pumps 20,000% in a day and dumps 99% the next day. Like, you want to be Bitcoin that gradually growed over the whole time and then does correct because everything has cycles and then reorientates itself and starts growing again. That's who you want to be. Because the second that you try to be the home run person, you might make that 20,000% in a single day, but you're also going to have a lottery winning mentality and go research what happens to lottery winners and see if that's the path you want to take in life.
Exactly. If it all just like lottery winner, they make a bunch of money all at once for nothing. They want to freaking scratch off, and then they just assume that money is, well, they don't understand money, and that's the thing, because they were just given it, and so then they just spend it all. They just spend
why, no
exactly.
Anything,
and a lot of those people probably were not in very good places within themselves. They probably had a lot of insecurities, they probably had debt, they probably had this and that, they didn't know how to do anything previously. Then they're given all this money and it just amplifies the problem. And the same thing is going to happen to you guys. Cryptocurrency is the one market, well, not the one market, but it's one of those markets where, you can get greatly rewarded for having bad habits if you just time the cycle right.
Some home runs.
Yeah,
right?
and I mean, for an example, there was a guy in my Discord that I talked to, and he bought, I think it was Salt, the ICO Salt, and Supermoon.
Is he salty now?
I would be very salty if I was him. He literally invested into Salt in the ICO. Supermoon's into 2017. He had like a couple $1,000s, turns it into a few million. Doesn't take any profits, holds the entire thing down, and it's well below ICO price. It's dead coin at this point. Probably never gonna recover.
So is that like $500?
Yeah. Imagine having. It's like down 99%, like well below the ICO price. Like, he probably has like a few dollars at this point. And so, it's insane that, this market is that volatile. If you don't understand what you're doing, you don't have a plan in place, you can make life-changing wealth, but it's the people that know how to keep that wealth that really continue on in this life. And, anybody can make money, but, everybody can just lose that back immediately. And with crypto, you're going to lose that back if you don't know what you're doing. That's
if you have no emotional development at all, then you're definitely going to lose it back.
You put a couple $1,000s in something and you turn it into couple, $50,000, you better take some of those profits or something, but then you turn it into a couple million and you didn't take any.
Yeah, well, I understand, we can't be too harsh on him, because it is one of those, you make that money that fast, and
you just assume
that's the nature of the situation.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? But I hear you, and I think that's why it's just like, be in this for the long run, like what we were talking about in the other podcast. Make investing a lifelong journey. And when you make it a lifelong journey, you might make $2 million on an investment accidentally and forget to sell your profits, and then lose it all, and it will be stressful, and you'll have to reach out to people like us and start learning courses and start listening to our mistakes and the things we've done. But that's okay. If you are that guy, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, that is a learning experience that taught you a lot. We're also just saying that the mentality is what took you to that spot in the first place, and this is the mentality to fix it, which is to be in this for the long haul.
Exactly.
So, I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about in today's podcast. I'm still personally I'm still long on Bitcoin personally. There's a lot of fear in the market, like we said, the sentiment, the extreme greed, or extreme fear right now is
I think it's like a 12 or a 15.
Fear and greed index is extreme fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the prices have been rising, and it's still in extreme fear. So that's really interesting to me.
Lots of negative comments on videos that used to always only get positive comments. That's perfect sign, exactly what I wanted to see.
We saw that at 3,000 in Bitcoin as well, at the bottom of the market. Also, you guys, one of the things that I did want to mention really quickly here before we go is we already talked about how the halving is in the halving, not the halvening. People get mad. The halving is in 30 days, and so one of the things to remember about the halving event is when the actual halving happens, if the prices do rally up to the point of the halving, when the actual halving happens, you can probably expect the sentiment to be completely opposite of what it is today, which is extreme greed. And so just remember that, as prices develop, as we move forward in through all of this, remember that there is, sentiment is pretty powerful, because humans have the emotional trigger of trying to do what the crowd is, but if the awareness of the sentiment is what saves you from it. So I think that's pretty much everything I want to talk about today, you guys. We really appreciate you. Again, we've been working on the ebook, so at some point that will be out. We're just reviewing, making sure all the English in it is written properly. And make sure that you're a subscriber to both my channel as well as Donovan's channel. Hit that like button for us, as well as subscribing and sharing this video with your friends so that they can get the same value that you guys have received today. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast. Episode 12, I believe, is what it is. And as always, stay powerful out there.